Hey, it's Randy Pearson, Vice President of Life and Annuities for Gordon Marketing. Welcome to another episode of Selling Life and Annuities. Today I've got our Your Family Bank Manager, Paul Bechtold, here to talk about where consumers can keep their cash and why brick and mortar banks might not be the best option. Stay tuned. All right, Paul. So, as the title of this video implies, storing cash for most consumers, sometimes they just simply put it in the traditional place, that being a bank. What are other options? And because this video series is entitled Selling Life and Annuities, why might life insurance be a better alternative?
Well, Randy, I can remember when I opened my first bank account. Now I'm dating myself a little here in the early 1980s, but you and I are the same age,
Don't
right?
date me too, please.
So I was getting 6 to 7% in my checking savings account in those days.
Yeah.
And people thought nothing about it at that time. That was just kind of the going rate. In fact, at the same bank that I had my checking and savings account, I opened a CD up in 1981. And my brother and I, putting our money together, were getting 18% per year.
18%.
So
those days are long gone.
Times have changed, haven't they? So obviously now, since 1981, I could show you a chart that shows a complete free fall in interest rates as engineered by our government, by the way.
Sure.
And people are now chasing yield these days, and they need other alternatives. So what other kind of places could they put it? Well, for a while, kind of shifted to money market accounts, and an alternative to traditional checking and savings. But you could use things like a Schwab account, maybe a brokerage account, or other types of savings vehicles like that. But some of those other vehicles all have implied hindrances to them, either risk or liquidity issues like CDs at a bank, for example. Right. Early withdrawal penalties like an annuity, things like that. So life insurance makes an excellent banking concept, and that's the very thing we do with the Your Family Bank concept. And why we call it Your Family Bank is that we're actually using a dividend-paying whole life insurance, and also the same concept works with an IUL, where as the premium goes into the policy, we design it for the majority of the premium going to the cash account, right? And that accumulates over time. But the beauty of it is the growth of that cash is never interrupted, even when we borrow against the policy.
Yeah. So for any agents that have watched our previous Selling Life and Annuity videos, several of them address this concept of accumulation and distribution life insurance, whether it be whole life or IUL. But for those that are new to our video series, they might be wondering, what are some of the limitations? What are some of the hindrances to utilizing life insurance as a repository for a consumer's cash?
Well, obviously, being this life insurance, we have to qualify with in order to get it. We have to, like you like to say, we're not only qualifying with the money that we put into it, but we have to qualify with our health underwriting as well. So you have to be young enough, healthy enough, have enough time to compound the interest over time in the policy and create some growth, because it's not going to take off quickly. It's going to be like a rocket launching, right? It's going to get off the ground slowly. And then the higher it gets in the atmosphere, the more it's going to take off, right?
Sure.
So the longer we have to compound that interest over time, the better off we're going to be. But the beauty of it is this: the interest compounding is never taxed and it's never interrupted. Right. So once the cash goes into the policy, it grows uninterrupted, without any tax, without any penalties. And so it's completely efficient in its growth, even though that growth might not sound super sexy at 4 to 5%.
But in today's market, 4 to 5%.
And that is a competitive rate of return to the point you make in today's interest environment. So if I can get 4 to 5% uninterrupted, continuously compounding interest in something, that would be like getting 8-9% in, say, a Schwab account, or something that required us to interrupt the compounding, pay taxes, pay early withdrawal penalties, something like that.
Yeah. Something that continues to surprise me, well, maybe not surprise me with consumers, but does surprise me with a lot of agents that we work with, is that when they get involved in Your Family Bank, or they start seeing some of the illustrations that we can create with these more aggressive accumulation distribution scenarios, is the actual cash available literally in year one, right? I mean, there are scenarios where we can build a contract where they can use this leverage within months of funding the policy to, with your family bank, pay off debt or use for other purposes, right?
That's correct. That's absolutely right. And, that was one of the limitations in whole life policies years ago, and definitely IULs, is you would have to let that money accumulate and marinate for a while and grow before you had the liquidity and the access to the money in the policy. Within 30 days, with every carrier that we have, and even one of our carriers, Mutual Trust Life, will allow access within 10 days.
Wow, that's amazing.
So that's pretty phenomenal.
So this is not your, as they might say, your grandfather's or even perhaps your father's traditional whole life policies. These are much more aggressively designed contracts. But that being said, how long have agents been marketing this concept to consumers?
Well, Nelson Nash popularized this going back about 50 years ago. The problem was, although he understood how it worked, describing the story to the client was very difficult. Mm-hmm. And so it's really become very popular really in the last 10 years or so because of the very thing we started out talking about. In today's interest environment, it's now a very competitive product where, you started in the whole life insurance business, right? A while back, and how popular were the interest rates you could get then compared to other products in the market? Not as attractive, right?
Yeah, much more competitive growth within the contracts, but nothing near the flexibility in the contracts that we have available to us today. So if an agent is watching this video and they don't feel comfortable with their knowledge level about these types of policies, how to design them, and most importantly, how to sell them, how might that agent get more information?
Well, they can call me directly or they can send an email to paul@gordonmarketing.com. And you don't have to know everything. We'll teach you along the way and we'll kind of learn as you go. Bring a case, bring us an example. We'll design it out for you. And as we develop that and we show you how it works for your particular client or situation, I promise you'll learn a lot just as you go along.
Yeah, just as a reminder, Your Family Bank, our most successful life insurance selling program here at Gordon Marketing. If you want to learn more, please reach out to Paul. Become a member of the team, and I can guarantee you this, you'll learn a lot more about life insurance, how to sell more life insurance, and you might likely make more money in the next year or more. So with that, we're going to call this episode of Selling Life and Annuities to an end. I want to thank everybody for watching this video. Please make sure you click subscribe below this video. Also, click the notification bell so when we come out with new content, you'll be sure and get that notification. Thank you. We'll see you next Tuesday for the next episode of Selling Life and Annuities.